Good evening. Welcome to another episode of That's Nice Who Cares. I'm Chris.
I'm Amanda.
All right. Today, as promised, we had a couple of people post on our Facebook page, and one of the suggestions that we had was discussing gun control. The comment essentially was, well, I responded to a troll. We got trolls. That's awesome. Yay. Thank you, trolls. And one of the people, after my comment about supporting the First Amendment, because the person made a comment, and we'll read those comments at the end of the show.
Yes.
About discussing the First Amendment, he said, the Second Amendment is, without the Second Amendment, there wouldn't be a First Amendment, which I kind of agree with. So I told that individual that we are going to be discussing gun control and gun laws.
Congratulations. What's his name? You want to look it up real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I'll look it up.
Sorry.
I'll look it up right now.
Bear with us.
Yeah. So we can do that. His name is...
Not Bernie Sanders, is it?
No, it's not Bernie Sanders. Trust me. He'd want to take half my guns.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, I should be more prepared for this, but
yeah, it's okay. We're winging it. It's Sunday night.
Yes, it's Sunday night. The kids were exhausting. So let me see. Yeah, it was one. It was our first. It was actually on our first video that we posted, and
Wait, is that the one?
no,
Yeah.
it wasn't that one.
Yeah,
well,
it
yeah,
was.
actually,
It
it
was.
was. Cool. Most relevant. Those comments. Okay, so you know what? We'll just go off for since we're already in here. Okay.
This is his first name, right?
Yes, a gentleman named Adrian responded by saying, "Fuck off." Well, thank you very much for your comments.
We appreciate it.
We look forward to bringing you entertaining and informative content. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a nice day. Another individual named Brandon, he asked simply, "Who cares?" Well, that's the point of our podcast, is to ask the question, "Who cares?" So this one was a gentleman who, Rhett, first rule of making videos, don't be ugly. This should be a podcast where no one can see your face. Well, I appreciate that, but if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see our faces and like us or not. Who really cares?
Who really cares?
We're married, so it's not like we're trying to press me.
I'm just gonna be blunt. Is Rhett good looking? Let's see. Click on his page. Let's show him.
I don't. Well, we're a little bit more professional than that.
I'm not.
I didn't see his. I'll show you later, but I didn't really see anything on his page. I mean, he has a snake wrapped around him.
Okay, really, Rhett? You got a snake wrapped around you? Hold on. I'm just gonna, honey. This is just how I am. I'm gonna tell you how it is.
I get it.
Okay, hold on. Rhett saying, hold on. Read that again. Don't be ugly. This should be okay.
It is a podcast.
It's a podcast, and don't be ugly.
It is a podcast.
First of all, everybody's different, and second of all, Rhett, is that his name? I've never heard of Rhett.
Rhett. Well, there's a lot of people named Rhett.
Rhett, why the hell you got a snake wrapped around your hand?
He likes snakes. It's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with snakes. There's nothing wrong with having the name Rhett. There's not even anything wrong with you find us unattractive, which I really don't care. Are you pinching me or scratching your butt?
No, I'm scratching my leg. Scratching my leg.
Okay.
I'm just stating the facts that you can't be pointing fingers if you got a snake around you. It is a little weird. It's a little.
And
can I say bougie tonight, please?
It's
bougie. I've been saying that word. That's my word.
I'm
That's my 2020 word.
Not entirely sure that's what it means, but
hey,
whatever.
It's cute. Whatever.
So my response to Mr. Red was, "Thank you for your feedback. It's not our intention to offend anyone. Everyone has a First Amendment right to their opinions. If you wish to listen to our podcast, please visit that'snicewhocares.podbean.com."
Okay, just hold on to make this clear. You said that.
Yes, I said that to him.
This is not me.
I responded to him, and we are not just on Podbean. We're also on Stitcher. We're on a few other platforms, and if you're watching us on YouTube, the links to those platforms are in the About section.
Okay, but I'm trying to make something clear. You're a little bit more professional. I guess
yes.
I'm more. Can I say bougie again? I'm a little bougie.
That is not what that word means.
Anyway, hold on. So if anyone gets upset, which I'm sure somebody will because they're trolling, I just want to say that this is how I am, and this was me, but you didn't say that.
No,
I just want to make that clear.
Right.
Okay.
So so a gentleman named Jeffrey.
Oh, I had another one.
He said, remember, we also have a Second Amendment.
Oh, this is that guy.
If you believe in the first one, the second protects the first. And I responded to him, thank you for your input. Tune in to our next episode where we will discuss the Second Amendment and gun control. So as promised, Mr. Jeffrey, congratulations.
Congratulations, you're the lucky winner.
You are the first person, I guess, in our viewers or our audience to make a somewhat suggestion, and that we're taking it. Yes, so congratulations. Thank you very much. We're not big enough to give you any kind of prize or anything, so hopefully you like the content.
Well, anyway. he's the winner of the basically being chosen for the topic.
We chose your topic, but you're not getting a t-shirt or anything.
Sorry.
So,
hopefully in the future.
So anyway, lots is going on this year when it comes to gun control and the Second Amendment, and Congress is always going back and forth when it comes to gun control and restrictions and rights and all that stuff. They've been doing it for years and years and years. Well, some of the things that are going on right now, at least in Virginia, is the Democratic-led government in Virginia is really trying to push a lot of gun legislation that they were never able to pass while the Republicans held the majority of the delegates or the state senate. Some of them, actually, I have them listed here. They want to do a red flag law. They want to do a one firearm a month, control. They want to do an assault weapons ban, which we'll get to in a minute. They just want to do there's a whole list of things. So let's start from the beginning. Now, as of right now, to my knowledge, none of these laws have been signed by the governor and put into force because they have to go to the other side. So the red flag law has not been officially passed and signed into law. That's essentially saying where the authorities can confiscate your weapons if you are deemed a threat to yourself or others. What is not fully clear is how that's going to happen. So if somebody can make an anonymous phone call to the authorities and say you're batshit crazy, and then all of a sudden you're going to have the SWAT team knock on your door, confiscate your weapons, and then all of a sudden you have to prove in a court of law that you're not a threat. So it's basically a backwards way of due process and all of that. So what if somebody is you pissed off and they're making a false claim against you? How is that going to happen?
Someone breaks up and they're all...
Right, and how are you going to defend yourself because you already have your weapons taken away? I fully understand that this is in response to really try to protect Virginians because of the mass shooting that happened in Virginia Beach, which, by the way, the individual who committed that crime was batshit crazy. Yeah. He did not legally possess a firearm. He didn't use a firearm that he really owned, I don't believe. He was a disgruntled employee. His race was actually left out of the conversation.
I wonder why.
Because, not that it matters, but he was an African-American man. But the news media and all the other major outlets left that part of the conversation out because they called him a disgruntled employee and this and that, and they try to kind of downplay it a little bit. However, when a shooter happens to be a Caucasian male, that's all over the news. It's like it's part of the reason why he shot somebody, which is not the case. But that's another topic, I'm guessing. So they're really trying to force all these gun legislations through, saying, it's to protect Virginians. Well, here's the problem. You limit guns, you restrict guns, you confiscate guns. All you're really doing is you're disarming law-abiding citizens. Okay?
Streets, still get on the street.
Yeah, and the vast majority of mass shootings and violent gun acts are committed by illegal firearms. So that is not actually fixing anything.
AKA the streets.
They're not fixing anything. Guns do save lives. Now, I'm not saying that some of these laws don't make a whole lot of sense. Like, I am somewhat okay with, limiting how many firearms you buy in a month. I'm not saying only one. I mean, because quite frankly, if I could afford to buy more than one gun, I would.
Well, if someone buys like maybe 20 a month, that's kind of that's
crazy.
That's
no, that's ridiculous. That is
agree.
ridiculous. Unless there's some kind of gun dealer and they have some kind of, federal permit to do something like that.
Yeah,
okay, that's an exception to the rule. But if you want to buy one or two or three, if you're a gun collector, fine. That shouldn't be a big deal. But obviously, you have to go through the proper procedures. I'm not saying that you have to have all these guns unregistered and unwarranted. I'm actually a firm believer of a universal background check. That may shock some members of the audience who've actually made it through this part of the podcast. I'm 100% believe that it should be one centralized system that has the information from the FBI, the CIA, the state and local governments and all that stuff about individuals, because if an individual who commits domestic violence moves from Texas to Oregon, for example, those databases may not talk to each other. They may not be connected.
Delayed.
That individual may have an easier or a harder time to get a firearm and then commit a very serious act of violence. So if you have a centralized database that has these resources in there, then individuals who should not have firearms shouldn't be able to get them in the legal process. That's not going to stop them from going into an alley somewhere in Baltimore and buying a gun from someone's trunk. And by the way, that happens every day.
Yep.
Okay? Some of the most violent cities in this country have the strictest gun laws, and there's a reason why.
Which one's that?
Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, Detroit. Los Angeles.
Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Los Angeles, other parts of Michigan. Just there's places in Missouri that are extremely violent. Alaska is an extremely violent state. Yes, Alaska apparently has the largest crime rate per capita in the whole country.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who lives in Alaska from the military, and they basically say there's not a whole lot to do, so people lose their minds and they commit crimes. So that's telling you something. So just because they're buried in snow doesn't mean they're not committing stupid shit. You know what I mean? But it's somewhat easier, to do things like that. Bottom line is, if we have a universal system that says, okay, these individuals can have guns, these individuals should not have guns, it would be easier to do that. It would be easier to, the legal means to keep firearms out of dangerous individuals. These are more, the gun issue, I think, is more not because of the access to guns, because it is a lot harder than you think to buy a firearm. It really is. When I bought my first firearm in Virginia, keep in mind that I have a secret government clearance. I was a combat veteran. I worked as a bail enforcement agent and a private investigator, and I had multiple security verifications and certifications through the Department of Criminal Justice Services. I still had to wait 2 months to purchase my firearm because I also had to re-register my fingerprints with the state of Virginia and have to prove that I was not an individual who was currently incarcerated in Florida because we have the same name and birthday. Think about that. Okay? If everyone's saying, oh, it's so easy to get a gun in Virginia, not in my case, and then, I may be an exception to the rule because my name and birthday match somebody that is still incarcerated. He was at least at that time still locked up in the Florida State Correction System, and I had to prove me standing there at the gun dealer that I was not him. And by the way, we are of different ethnicities, you might say. You can pull up his mugshot and actually pull up what he did.
Oh, he was African American.
Yes, he was African American.
Yeah, and you're white. You're white as snow, honey. You're white as snow.
Not really, but I'm not. I am not African American.
Let me see.
But we are different individuals completely, and the state of Virginia seemed it necessary to make me go through an entire lengthy process, which means I couldn't work in my career field at that time because I did not have the firearm that I needed. And I was technically a private contractor. It was not provided by my company, so I had to buy it myself. And so I also had to get a special registration number that actually identifies me as a different person, not my social security number. So that was my situation. We have relatives in other states that can't buy firearms because of the restrictions in place in those states. They just don't allow people to have firearms. Maryland is very difficult to buy a firearm. DC, it is nearly impossible to get a firearm. California, we have relatives in California. It is near impossible for them to purchase firearms because of the very strict legislation that they have in those areas. You know, I'm all for a universal system. I'm all for, if people have a history of mental illness, a documented history of mental illness, not just being weird, then yes, assess whether or not they need to have firearms. Just like a person who's been convicted of stabbing people shouldn't necessarily have kitchen knives in their house. Maybe they should have plastic cutlery until they are deemed not a threat. But hey, what's the difference, right? That's my opinion. Other ones are banning magazines or clips that carry more than 12 rounds. I kind of get that. Military, we carry 30-round magazines all the time, but that's a different situation. I kind of get that, fine. There's certain things with firearms that I don't agree with or make sense. Like, I don't think a bump stock is useful. I think that's a ridiculous invention. I don't know who invented it. That was a stupid idea. I don't believe that those should be accessible to the general public because they serve no real purpose. Unless it's the zombie apocalypse or you're bear hunting and
weird
you need
people like that.
Yeah, but you need a bump stock to take down a 2,000-pound grizzly bear, fine. You don't need a bump stock in your house if you're living in, Houston. For crying out loud.
Some people have those underground things because I think the world's coming to an end.
Well, if you're a prep, you're not going to need a bump.
I don't know.
You know what a bump stock is, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
It's something.
Yeah, it basically, a bump stock allows you to rapid fire. You shoot many rounds of ammunition in a very short period of time.
Yeah, so instead of just bam, 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 it's fast.
Yeah. So, the Las Vegas shooter, he used a bump stock to spray out all of his ammunition, apparently. And he was also another mentally unstable individual.
Don't know how in the hell he got those guns.
There's also a conspiracy theory about he wasn't the only shooter, but that's another topic.
I don't know. I think his fiance was involved, but that's another story.
Yeah, but we don't have any proof of that.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
So that I get. I don't think that you should Virginia or any state should ban AR-15s or semi-automatic rifles because it's really not your business what kind of firearm I have because I'm not a threat to you. And most people who have those weapons are not a threat to you or anyone else. They are only a threat to individuals who intend to do harm to them. For example, the firearms that we have are not only are they well secured and taken care of, but there's no way our children can access them. So they're safe. They're only in a situation to where if we need to access them at a last resort, we'll do so. But we live in a pretty somewhat safe area, I must say. We have a group of neighbors who we all watch out for each other, and the vast majority of the people who live in our area are retired military, retired FBI, other government agents. We have
so they don't play.
Yeah, we have a lot of government people living in this area. And quite frankly, we kind of live in an area where it'd be a little difficult to get out if you come in, you have to know your way around here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and everyone knows everybody. We all know each other's cars. We all know each other, who each other looks like. We all know each other's names. We all know each other's real patterns and stuff. And we look out for each other. We are a community here. And there's a lot of other places that are like that. I have friends and relatives that live in places of West Virginia and Pennsylvania. They all have the same thing. You know, they have strong communities. They all look out for each other. There's not a whole lot of crime where they are for those reasons. So I think a big reason is community. If you get to know your neighbors and you
build a relationship
and have that sense of camaraderie with the people that live next to you, you know, you'd be able to look out for each other, and crime would likely not be as prevalent in those areas. At least in my opinion. When we actually lived in Virginia Beach at one point in our lives, and we were living there when the shooting occurred, and we were not in that building during the event, but I believe we had to go pay like a utility bill or something. We were there for a reason. Was it a couple weeks before that when the incident happened?
No.
The municipal building.
No. Are you getting that confused? We went there when you tried to get some kind of license or something.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, it was like a couple months before. It wasn't weeks, it was like a month.
It was like a month before, okay.
But still, we had the kids with us.
Yeah, we had the kids with us. We were there. We were in the same building that incident occurred, but we were there several weeks beforehand. But it could have been just as easily that day. You know what I mean? It happens. It could have happened at any time, and that's the sad part. But the guy didn't need to have a firearm. This, I believe, is an overreach with the government, the Virginia state government, because they are trying to jump to conclusions and trying to put the cart before the horse when it comes to protection. There's also proposals to where it'll be illegal for an individual to carry a firearm on religious grounds. So like at a church or something. I don't agree with that either, because quite frankly, it shouldn't be separation of church and state, right? It should not be up to the government to determine
up to the church
whether or not a person carries a firearm in that religious building. Like whether it be a mosque, a synagogue, a church, whatever it may be. The religious leaders of that establishment and the people who run that organization should be the ones to determine yes or no that you can carry a firearm. And quite frankly, the best example of that is the Texas shooting that occurred. An individual walked in and a man with a gun saved hundreds of lives.
And that was in a Baptist church, right?
I think so.
I think
so. It was a Baptist church.
Yeah, he was was it concealed permit or something?
He had a permit. Well, in Texas, I mean, my understanding is you can just open carry and no one's whatever. I mean, it's not a big deal.
But he was in the church.
He was in the church. I believe he was concealed because obviously he didn't want to be toting it around and I wouldn't say brandishing because it's not the right term, but showing off his firearm to the parishioners that were there, going to do their religious service. So, but an individual came in. I believe he did shoot 2 people before he was taken out quickly. It was a matter of seconds that the threat was eliminated permanently from an individual with a legally carrying firearm. And
wait a minute, he got permission from
the pastor. Knew about
I remember that. Yeah, he got permission.
The pastor knew about it. The pastor was okay with it because he was trained. It was a legal firearm. It was registered. He knew what he was doing. I don't know if it was profession or what his specific situation was, but the pastor gave him the authority to carry that firearm. So if a pastor says, or a priest or a rabbi or whoever says, yes, individuals who have legally purchased firearms and are trained with the proper credentials to carry a weapon in this church to protect fellow parishioners, the state government shouldn't be involved in that.
No.
Okay? I'm all for other things that they're trying to push through. They're not going to change everything because what's going to happen is they may have too much of a reach and try to change too much and try to force too many things down people's throats that in the very next election, which I do believe is in November, they're going to lose their seats. It's going to flip back to Republican, and then all of a sudden, guess what? They're going to vote to remove those laws from the books to begin with. And they're going to try to reverse a lot of those laws that they put into place for a very short period of time. So by the time that those are enforced and like these confiscation teams that Governor Northam has actually have funding for, and yes, that is true, to go and confiscate people's weapons that are deemed not to be allowed to have them, it's going to be anarchy.
But don't you think it's kind of funny how now after Donald Trump was acquitted, now all this stuff's being thrown out the wazoo? Not saying that they weren't doing something before, but their focus was so much on Trump. Now that all this crap's coming out.
Well, the federal government, yes, but the state government, like, they were talking about these legislatures before they even took their oath of office. So the day that they won the election, they all got together and said, yeah, we're going to, quote, make Virginia safer by removing guns from law-abiding citizens. I mean, that's not a direct quote, but that's pretty much what they're doing. Other states are doing this as well. Maryland is changing their gun laws. Other states are considering doing that. Congress has been toying with the idea for years about banning all assault weapons, but when they're asked what an assault weapon is, none of them can give a clear example. None of them. Well, most of the people talking about banning weapons have never even fired a weapon before. They've never even held a gun. So they're the best experts, apparently, to discuss that. They're not asking the right questions. They're not asking the right people. They're essentially basically panicking when it comes to situations. Now, are mass shootings a bad thing? Yes. Are they an epidemic? Based on statistics, I would have to say no. And I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion, but it's the truth that the vast majority of gun violence is self-inflicted gunshot wounds. They are gang violence, is a lot of them, and I don't know of very many members of gangs who legally purchase firearms. If anyone knows those statistics that you can back up that gang members legally purchase firearms and all that stuff, I'd be more than happy to read it. Please. Yeah, I mean, I don't have that information. I don't have that information, but individuals in gangs, don't necessarily, buy firearms. Also, another thing is when it comes to what they call the gun show loophole, which this is also going to surprise some people if you're still watching or listening, that I 100% believe that you should not actually carry out a firearm in your hands from a gun show. That is ridiculous. That is stupid because, quite frankly, there are a lot of batshit crazy nut jobs out there who find a way to get into a gun show, purchase a firearm, and then do some serious damage. Why in the hell would you... Now, I get a lot of people who go to gun shows, they carry their legally purchased firearms, concealed or otherwise, and so they can protect themselves in case one of those people come in there and, cause some damage. Fine.
Oh, hang on, pause real quick. Well, don't they have to do the background checks and all that crap when they go to these gun shows?
No, not necessarily.
What the hell?
Yeah, I know. That is stupid.
Okay, so that's retarded.
That I get. So here is my fix, okay? And you politicians who may be listening, you can steal this idea and not give me a lick of credit. Here's how it works. An individual who is selling a firearm at a gun show, make sure he's a licensed dealer and he's not batshit crazy himself or herself. Okay? The individual who wants to buy the firearm, okay, fine. You may have what they call a rubber ducky, a simulated model of the firearm made of plastic or something like that. It's not an actual firearm, so they can hold it, see what it looks like, see how it feels. Fine, okay, see if they like how the grip feels in their hands because maybe the grip's too big, too small, whatever. Okay, fine. Then they decide they want to purchase said firearm. They fill out a form with all their information. They put down a deposit on that firearm with a receipt. That information is then sent to the proper authorities for a background check, and the voucher that has the serial number with the make, model, and all the information, all the details of that firearm are on that voucher. They go to the local dealer that has that firearm in their stock. If the background check clears, they put the rest of the money down for the firearm, they take it home. If it doesn't clear and for some reason they get a portion of their deposit back.
Why
So all because they have to pay for the background check.
I'm
And
surprised
it's
they
like
don't do that now.
I think it's not that much of a it's not that expensive, I don't
But
think.
why are
so.
they having these gun shows and having these dang people without doing the proper checks? And these Democrats are flipping shit. Well, hello.
Well, because
Come on.
well, it's a lot of it.
That's stupid.
Well, the Democrats, in some respects, are right that they need to remove some of the loopholes and things like that. Yeah, I get.
Maybe that's a loophole.
But the problem is, the two extremes are talking louder than the people in the middle who actually have common sense. So the far left is saying all weapons are bad, ban everything, everyone should have spoons or whatever, crazy, like you need to ban everything. Only the government should have firearms. And think about that real quick. A government did try to do that once before. We literally fought a war over it, and we won, by the way, okay? So the far left says no one should have guns except the people we deem worthy of it, and that's probably the government. And by the way, not a single Democrat that is talking like that is willing to give up their firearms
or their
bodyguards' firearms.
Hello.
Just the people who live in their jurisdictions. Just saying.
That's a hypocrite.
The far extreme right are saying they want no, everyone should have a firearm. Everyone should carry a gun. Guns everywhere. Blah blah blah. You take our firearms. There's gonna be anarchy in the street, and everyone's gonna die, and the blood is gonna be spilled. But whatever. The people in the middle are like, wait a minute. There is common ground here. You can allow people to have whatever firearm they want as long as they are a law-abiding, non-crazy citizen. And then the other side is like, okay, well, if you want to have your gun, let's take some measures to ensure that guns do not fall into the wrong hands, like a universal background check, or, put certain safety measures in our schools and whatnot. All this money is talking about this and that. Why not put a metal detector in every school in the country?
I don't know why. That would be the smartest
thing. Why not do that? Or there are plenty of either underemployed or unemployed veterans who would be more than happy to have a job protecting children. And we are all trained in firearms. We all have a sense of, honor, and the vast majority of us have a sense of honor and integrity, and we would take a lot of pride in protecting children in our community. Just saying, but see, that's the thing. That's why gun control is not going to really work very well in this country, is because the middle ground, the people who actually can come up with some reasonable consensus, are being muted by the extreme sides talking about all craziness and ridiculous assumptions from the other side.
You can't control every situation as far as who's going to shoot this place, who's going to bomb this, who's going to do that. You can't control everything. But what you can do is have safety measures in check to detect these things. Like you said, like the metal detector. If you walk into the school, well, hello.
Yeah.
Right?
There is that. Also, banning certain firearms is not going to stop mass shootings.
No, they're going to go on the street.
Virginia Tech, that guy, he had 2 pistols. He didn't have a rifle. He had handguns. Other mass shootings, some of them had shotguns. Some of them had pistols. Yes, a lot of them did have semi-automatic rifles and what some people consider military-grade weapons, but that's not all of them. Okay. In the vast majority of those individuals, did not use their legally purchased firearm.
No, what was that one shooting? That kid took his mother's firearm and shot up a school. Was it
Sandy Hook?
Sandy Hook.
Yeah. He was crazy. He had documented mental illness, but they didn't do anything about it. He didn't get the help that he needed. No. He killed his mother. I believe he killed his mother, broke into her safe, took the firearms, and committed a horrendous crime against children, against small children. It was horrific.
Pure evil.
It was horrific. No one is defending that individual. Also, another horrific incident was the Aurora shooting with the Batman premiere. Here's a little interesting fact. The individual who committed that, who, by the way, tried to plead insanity, he was not insanity. It was all premeditated. Fun fact, does anyone know how many theaters that guy passed on his way from his house to the theater that he shot up? 3.
Huh?
About 3.
Really?
Why? Can you guess?
I have no clue.
Those theaters allowed concealed carry permits.
Oh, that bastard!
And that was actually part of the prosecution's case. Like, he was insane. Why didn't he go to the first movie theater that was showing the same Batman movie in the same time slot, and it was closest to his house? Because those theaters allowed people with concealed carry permits to bring their firearms into the theater.
Wow.
The one that he shot up, no firearms allowed.
That's something I want to touch on, was mental illness. It seems like a lot of these people are just fucked up.
They all are.
And I don't know if it's just like if they have mental issues, if they have depression. Some of these freaking people are on all this damn medication and they got fucking side effects. Some of them are just fucked up.
Yeah, no,
I mean, you can't really tell, but honestly, mental illness is for real.
That is probably
for real.
You're not gonna fix people wanting to get mass shootings. The best way, in my opinion, and I'm not a medical professional, I'm just a guy in front of a microphone with his wife, that once you help fix the mental problems in this country, stop drugging kids that are a little hyper in school.
Yeah, the side effects.
Stop giving a pill for every issue that people have. Okay, you have a bad hair day, take a fucking pill. You have this and that. Some things may require medication, but those need to be few and far between. Not everything requires a pill.
No, some doctors just throw out all these damn
pills.
And
probably because they get kickbacks from the medical.
Oh, I'm sure it's all money provided. I'm sure they get money, but the thing of it is, like, some of this shit has so many side effects, and it messes with the chemical imbalance of the brain.
It does,
fucks shit up.
And if they already have mental instability and they already have other issues compounded with a chemical imbalance now that is caused by the unnecessary drugs that are in your system, then you're going to have a psychopath or like a nutcase. I mean, I may not be using the right terms, and psychopath may not be appropriate, and I apologize if I offend anybody, but who cares?
But hold on, pause real quick. But there are some people who are just crazy or psychopaths.
They are crazy.
There are some people without having any mental issues that are just fucked up.
The Columbine shooters were just crazy. And don't give me this bullshit about they were bullied. Yes, people.
Oh my God,
were not
bullied. Yeah, so I'm sorry. I'm just gonna be honest.
So what? They had the Trenchcoat Mafia. There were several members of it. Only 2 of them committed a violent acts and multiple.
But
homicides.
for them being bullied does not give them the right to go shoot other people.
You may have not. You were a little younger than me, so you may not. I was in high school when that happened, and
no, I remember that.
The news media blame Marilyn Manson. They blame movies. They blame video games.
They have to blame somebody.
They didn't blame the parents.
Of course not.
Some may have. But I don't blame the parents. I blame the system. I don't blame Marilyn Manson did not cause.
No, I mean, he is really weird.
To kill those people.
He is really weird.
But no.
I'm not saying he did. But
his music did not cause. His music did not ever cause a single act of violence.
I didn't say it did, Never. But I'm just stating that it is weird music.
The Insane Clown Pop. Well, yeah, but some people consider country music. weird. So
that's true.
I mean, some people call NSYNC and Britney Spears weird music,
which they're not.
No,
Just saying.
I'm just saying. Insane Clown Posse never caused a single act of violence, in my opinion. It's music. It's entertainment. If you don't like it, turn the fucking channel.
Yeah.
They were batshit crazy assholes who committed a horrendous act of violence, and people are trying to make sense of it by blaming other people instead of the people who committed the crime. All these individuals who commit these acts of crimes, Congress, state legislature, the police, everyone is blaming the gun or blaming their environment or
Who
blaming
the fuck pulled the trigger? Hello.
They are the ones who committed the act. Mm-hmm. Blame them. Now, if they were legit batshit crazy and they were talking about committing all these horrible crimes and their best buddy says, hey, that's a good idea, take my gun, yeah, you might want to blame his best buddy for helping facilitate the crime, but that's different. Mm-hmm. I can't think of one instance that actually happened, but if that did happen, those individuals were culpable and those individuals were hopefully at least brought to justice or at least charged with something, or they were involved in the shootings themselves. But that doesn't happen, okay? No. People need to start blaming the individuals who commit the crime. Congress needs to get off their ass and stop going on vacation every other day, and stop arguing over petty shit and stop whining that, oh, my party is not in power, oh, this person says mean things, blah, blah. Who gives a shit? Do your fucking job.
Yeah, but before you rant on, I'm going to try to get a word in here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, I tend to go off on a few things. Go ahead.
I wanted to talk about bullying, being bullied.
Okay.
Since I mentioned that. And I don't want people to think that, oh my God, she's so insensitive, what a bitch, whatever. No, here's the deal, and I'm going to be for real with it, and if people don't like it, then whatever. So, nowadays, people are bullied, right? I mean, this has been going on for how many years? Okay, everyone's been bullied. And it could be small, could be medium, could be large, who knows? Every person's different. But my point is nowadays people have to go shoot up a school because they were bullied, or they have to go shoot a Walmart because they were bullied, or they want to kill themselves because they were bullied, and they want to see everyone. They want to get a reaction. It's all about a fucking reaction. I am sorry that people are being bullied. That it's terrible. But what happened to back in the day? People were still getting fucking bullied, right? No one shot up schools. No one went to the Walmart and started shooting random people for going there and getting their damn prescription. You know what I'm saying here? Like, the times have changed. Yes, there's social media. You got your damn Facebook, Instagram, I don't know, Snapchat, whatever. But
I think I can answer that question.
Well, hold on. Let me rant for a second.
Go ahead.
It makes me very upset. You were bullied. I was bullied. Every person was bullied. Okay? Here's the deal. It's the parents' job that I feel that they had to talk to their child about situations and how to overcome these situations and be more strong in these situations. Because a lot of these parents just throw their kid in the room, or hey, go do your fucking homework. Give them the computer in their room. What are they gonna fucking do? They're not gonna fucking do research. They're gonna go onto Facebook, right? And then something's gonna trigger them and make them very upset. And they're gonna end up doing something. Yeah. And then computers, anything, they don't need no damn cell phone. The computer needs to be in the living room. When I was growing up, the computer was in the living room for that reason. Because you just don't know.
Yeah.
And you have to educate your children. But anyway, what were you going to say?
What I was saying, well, yeah, I was viciously bullied and everything, and I survived, and I didn't commit any terrible acts of violence.
No.
I think people are coddling their children too much, and everyone's a special snowflake, and school administrators, they always tend to favor the people committing the bullying acts instead of the victims, and it's a normal thing because the popular kids are the ones who are the bullies more often than not, and they are the ones who do something good for the school, whether they're athletes or this and that, or maybe their parents are friends with the now
PTA
school principal,
shit or something,
whatever the situation may be. And it's basically the people who are bullied complain, and then you're causing problems. There's obviously, it's an epidemic, and then something really crazy happens. What I think they need to go back to is this. I mean, this wasn't taught to me. I was basically taught to like put my head down and ignore it, and it'll just go away. Which, by the way, don't ever do to your kids. Don't tell them to ignore it and it'll go away, because that's just going to make them more of a victim. Because if you don't fight back, the victims know they can get away with it, and when you finally blow up, all the administrators are going to see is the victim finally losing their shit and retaliating and either punching the bully or screaming or whatever. And they're going to get in trouble, and the bully's going to get away with, horrible things like assault, harassment, whatever. And these are actual crimes, by the way. You young people who are listening to this, if you are doing those kinds of things, those are actual crimes. And if you're caught, you can be prosecuted. Just
actual jail.
But what I'm saying is, what I think should happen is go back to what you and I teach our kids is, don't throw the first punch, throw the last one. Take a stand. Teach your kids to stand up for themselves and stand up for other people and say, hey, I don't appreciate you saying that. That was unnecessary. That's uncalled for. I don't care if you don't like me, but you're not going to be rude or whatever, It's like, if we can't be friends, then we just need to associate with each other at all and try to walk away. Once it gets physical, that's another problem. In my opinion, I do believe that if an individual, like I teach my kids, and they're a little younger, so they don't really have to deal with this yet, but if an individual puts their hands on you, you have every right in the world to fight back as hard and as strong as you can to stop them from trying to hurt you. And then you run and get help. Period. I am not going to fault my kid as long as they didn't start the fight. If they did not start the fight and they finished it, I will support them to the death. I will go all the way as high in the court system or in the school board or whatever I need to make sure that their right to defend themselves is upheld.
Mm-hmm.
That's not done anymore. People are like, oh, you're a special snowflake, in order to go away, everyone is this and that, whatever. And you're trying to coddle everybody and everything else, and everyone's too overly sensitive.
Oh my God! Everyone's sensitive. I bet some people on this listening.
I guarantee you, some of the things that we've said, people are gonna hear a split second of it, get triggered, turn it off, and whatever, and not follow us,
rant somewhere,
or whatever. Fine. We are all for open dialogue.
Everyone has a right to their opinion.
You can call me an idiot. You can call me this and that. I know what I am and I know what I'm not.
Yeah.
So. I mean,
what though? I can give 2 cents what the hell you're saying. You know why? You say if you're gonna put a comment,
me or them.
Oh, I'm saying someone if they're commenting in general.
Yeah.
That means I'm getting attention, negative or positive.
Yeah.
You're giving me attention.
That's true. But
anyway, go ahead.
What I'm saying is, try to keep an open mind and have an open dialogue. Don't make assumptions because you listen to part of this episode and think that we're this, that, and the third. Listen to the whole thing. We would love for you to listen to the whole thing. If you have disagreements, let us know. If you have concerns, let us know. If you do agree, let us know why.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And, we'll respond. We'll put your comments out in a future episode, whatever. We'll definitely like to have an open dialogue with our listeners. We're a new podcast. We're still trying to learn our way around how these things work, and we hope you're enjoying what we're doing so far. We've talked about a lot of things. The initial topic was gun control, and we've gone to a lot of things and bullies and everything else. It's been a pretty good episode this evening.
Yeah.
So we hope you enjoyed it. That's nice. Who cares? And tune in next time. Don't forget, if you're listening to us via one of the streaming services, Podbean, Stitcher, or the like. We are also on YouTube. You can find us on That's Nice Who Cares. We are also on Facebook. So please like and subscribe, and we really appreciate it. If you're a fellow podcaster out there who came across our page, drop us a line and we'll show some support as well. You know, we're one happy community, and we love to show you support, the support that you would give us. And that's not a prid quo quo or prid quo whatever you said.
You must be tired because you're
Whatever. That's nothing like that. You know, just like I would love to support other podcasters that are up and coming, and I would like to have your feedback and your support is greatly appreciated.
Okay.
So anyway, okay, that's all for tonight. It's been a little longer than usual, so hopefully you've tuned in for the entire episode. Until next time, I'm Chris.
I'm Amanda.
And that's nice. Who cares?
Yep.